There's been a lot of talk about a freight recession in the US this year, particularly affecting trucking companies.
Yeah.
How have your guys been getting on with business?
We're seeing a slight uptick now. Of course, we're in Lunar New Year, so once we come out of it, we're anticipating an uptick in cargo volume. Some diversion from the Red Sea crisis, and some from the Panama Canal. We have seen an uptick over the past few months, but I would say going back to November of 2022 through about Q4 of last year, while there was still strong retail sales, etc., warehouses were still full of inventory. And now we're seeing those facilities burning off some of that inventory. So we're seeing those orders, like I mentioned, the diversion. But yeah, folks were struggling. There's been bankruptcies, there's been consolidations, folks just straight up handing in the keys and closing down their business. So it's been tough out there. Rates have been pretty low. I don't know if the shippers are looking for a pound of flesh from the drayage operators after the supply chain crisis or not, but I'll tell you, it's very aggressive out there, is what I'm hearing from my members now. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, it's not a train coming right at us. But either way, we're seeing some volume uptick, and some shippers telling us that we're going to see rerouting for transloading, especially because of those two things I mentioned previously.
As you say, yeah, we've got the problems of the Red Sea. We've got low water on the Panama Canal. There's also this, as we've heard on previous episodes of this podcast, we've got the threat of union action on the US East Coast.
Yeah,
Some people are saying that this is a bit of a perfect storm for the US West Coast in a good way. There's a lot
right.
more cargo heading your way, but it sounds like you feel the same way. Are you confident that you will be able to, or your members will be able to benefit from this, and that the port of LA and Long Beach in particular, and also
Mhm.
the container terminals, that they have the processes, the capacity, and the labor in place to really make the best of what could be, a bonanza of cargo?
We've got thousands of chassis ready to go, stacked up on top of each other, 5 high, because we've seen so much dip in volumes lately. Uh, Terminal capacity, I think, as long as they remain efficient and do have order enough labor to service the gates and service the ship side to get those boxes off dock, provide enough appointments for us to pick up that cargo. And then the trucking side, honestly, because of the consolidations, because of some of the bankruptcies we've seen, there are over 23,000 individual vehicles that are registered to do business just at the ports of LA and Long Beach alone. In Oakland, there's another, 7,000. This Seattle Tacoma around 5,400 or so. So while LA Long Beach is really the epicenter for the West Coast volumes as it's perceived in the outside world, it's looked at as one gateway. But we do have two different port operating authorities landlording all of those marine terminals. And some things that the ports have done is that they've taken land adjacent to the marine terminals off dock, but within the port region or port territory, rather, port property, and have activated these lands, put investment into them with private partnerships in putting down gravel, leveling, so they can act as a container, pressure release valve for some of these containers that might be dwelling on dock. Strategies such as these dwell fees and whatnot have motivated shippers during the supply chain crisis. It was challenging because warehouses started to get kind of full and they just were not able to cycle through that inventory as consumer spending shifted more towards the services side. And that's where we saw that dip. And so we're ready now. We're at vacancy rates above 5% in Los Angeles County for warehouses. During the supply chain crisis, it was less than 1%. So we've got some open space. As I said, inventories have burned off. So as long as we can get those boxes off dock in an efficient manner, we're not going to have a problem moving that cargo.